Hi, I'm Mike Perez with Mastering the Young Band at MikePerezBand.com. This video is going to talk about the first warm-up set 2. You want to use the first warm-up set 2 once your students can consistently articulate their first 5 notes and have played numerous 5-note melodies from their method book. Go Tell Aunt Rhody, maybe even Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. A lot of those simple 5-note melodies you'll see on the first pages of whatever method book that you use. The first warm-up, set 2, introduces the brass to their what I call their upper partial. That's that upper concert B flat. And again, if you haven't watched my video on brass partials, teaching the young brass players specifically, how to change their partials, check that out on my YouTube channel at Mastering the Young Band. So you can see how I teach my students their upper partial. For brass players, it is critical that they have enough embouchure strength and understand the mechanics of going from their middle to their low partial before introducing the upper partial. If you introduce it too fast, students are going to use tension, pressure, contortion, different things to try to get their upper note, and you want to avoid all that. You want them to be strong enough and have enough experience on their instrument that they should be able to get the upper partial with some effort, but minimal effort. They shouldn't be having to really overdo it. If they are, that's a sign that you're maybe introducing it too early, or you've taught them something conceptually that's incorrect. So you want your brass players to achieve their upper partial through air direction and speed. They'll feel their air direction go a little bit down. That raises the tongue up a little bit, and that allows that air to accelerate, which causes a faster vibration. So it's all about that air speed going faster over the tongue by aiming it a little bit lower. And that's what's going to help them to get that upper partial. A lot of the first warm-up set 2 is going from their upper partial to their middle. It gets them really fluent on that. And just like on the first warm-up, you want to start this by not having them tongue their second note. Have them go from their upper partial with the air a little bit down to their middle partial where their airstream is going a little bit more straight into their mouthpiece. So you want to start that exercise that way, having them going without tonguing the second note as they're changing their partial that way. By the way, you'll notice these are formatted very similar to the first warm-up. You may not, I would suggest not starting your brass players on number 1. I would actually start further along. I would start on number 5 where they do their partial changes, or maybe it's number 9, but have them start with the partial changes first, and then once they're comfortable with that, then go up to number 1. You'll notice number 1 is just concert B flat with articulation. You don't want to just start there. That's going to be a little bit much for your beginners to start with. So start them with the partial change going from the upper B flat down to the F. Get them really comfortable with that, and then you can move up to that number 1 where they're playing the upper concert B flat consistently. For flutes, they also go to their upper concert B flat, and for them with the flute, in order to get that upper note, what you want them to think about is the corners of their mouth, firm it up a little bit and go slightly forward. So when they're playing, a normal embouchure might look like this. And then when they go to B flat, it pushes forward, the lips push forward, the corners come in and go forward, and then of course, they want that smaller aperture. The last concept you want to reinforce with your flutes is their air direction does need to go up a little bit. Really recommend, not just for flutes, but for brass as well, but have them do this in front of a mirror, and you want them to really be able to see, have them turn their head slightly. You want them to be able to see their corners going forward as they're getting to that upper note. Have them watch their mirror a lot and have them do a lot of finger embouchure so they can watch that motion, and then go to head joint, have them practice on the head joint going from closed low sound to the upper sound. That's the kind of preliminary step before getting the B flat. Once they get that really well, then you can go on the full instrument and play their B flat that way. So for the flutes, this first warm-up set 2 really reinforces with them their upper B flat. For clarinets, this works on their low G. This is the first exercise that they're going to see in Essential Foundations where they start putting their right hand down and they go down to that low G. A couple of things you want to reinforce with the clarinets is that right hand position. It's really important that the right thumb, I call it their fingernail thumb, the edge of their fingernail should be touching the thumb rest when they have that right hand position. Sometimes students, they turn their thumb too much and they have the pad up against the clarinet. That turns the wrist. And the issue with that is then that sixth finger is going to be short on reaching the G open hole down there. If they turn their wrist to where their fingernail is touching, notice what that did to my hand. So if I go pad of my thumb under that thumb rest, here's my hand position. Once I do it correct and my fingernail is just barely touching my thumb rest, it allows my hand to cover that sixth tone hole a lot better. So it's really important with your clarinets that that thumb position is correct. Also make sure that they don't push the thumb like that, because then they're going to have to pull their fingers back to cover the tone holes, and then they're using the tips of their fingers instead of the pads to cover those holes. So you also want to make sure that that thumb doesn't do that on you. You want to make sure that that fingernail is touching a little bit of that thumb rest. That's going to help that right hand get into position. So that's the first warm-up set 2. It's an important transitionary exercise to help your students with the brass and flutes to get up to their upper B flat and the clarinets down to their low G.